We now return to the untold story of the South, brought to you by the Duke Corporation, with a generous donation from the Thurman Family Trust. Indeed, these were trying times for honorable plantation owners. Work was daily interrupted by the field workers' insistence on parading around in their enormous hats, which took considerable time away from their duties. Duties that would then be unfairly handed over to local itinerant farmers. Farmers whose telltale scowls were the horrific byproduct of an allergic reaction to oversized foliage. When they weren't waiting impatiently for yet another free meal, or posing for hours in fancy dress in front of a stolen pump organ, the plantation workers would build ramshackle lean-tos for the express purpose of holding what were colloquially referred to as house parties, often falsely proclaiming, in unison, that the roof of the structure was on fire, and yet they would loudly refuse any water and instead profess a desire to let the establishment burn. The only hope the plantation owners had for retaining some semblance of control was aided in large part by Dr. Wilbur T. Whippington, whose artistic renderings and detailed pamphlets were instrumental in informing the country of the plight of the southern plantation owner. Whippington informed the country of the Negro pension for carrying stolen babies in a bindle stick, which plantation bosses would then have to wrest from an angry tribe. Often these scenes would result in the unfortunate use of force. Seen here is a rendering of the infamous slave auction con from Dr. Whippington's widely read pamphlet, Fear of a Black Planet. This simple con involved a contrived slave auction. While the innocent plantation owner inspected his purchase, two or more of the devious slaves' tribesmen would sneak up on the unsuspecting businessmen and rob them of their wine jugs, rifles, and striped pantaloons. Whippington's pamphlets did much good in warning the white populace of the aggressive behavior, rebellious antics, and underhanded machinations of the colored peoples. Rebellious indeed was the little-known underwear model mutiny of 1823, and underhanded it was when the slave families would secure a position in a plantation owner's home only to systematically rob the home, hiding the stolen objects in complicated headdress. Whippington's popularity waned only when his tales became too wild and he began warning of black ghosts and the secret Georgia house wherein he said could be found such abominable acts as interracial banjo playing and scientific experiments like the breeding of a ferocious black giant whose anger could only be assuaged by the proto-jazz sounds of the field horn. With or without these pamphlets, southern plantation owners had much to gripe about. Once a year, Virginia state plantation owners would gather to air grievances and share facial hair maintenance tips. At these monthly meetings, the men would complain of the rising costs of slave owning. At the top of the list in mounting costs were the nearly weekly expenses of reward payments for the capture of all too frequent runaway slaves. Other rising costs included hundreds of dollars in shackles and sexual favors for the sailors who were skilled in resizing and cleaning restraint devices. When we return, we explore the effects of the 1841 Flogwell plantation strike and chili cook-off, and learn of one little lady's plan to take down her plantation single-handedly with the use of poison ivy, and her involvement with the nefarious Leaning Low Main Brothers gang.